A man who was holed up in his friend's home during a 12-hour standoff with the RCMP says the impasse was all a big misunderstanding. West Shore RCMP had been called to the View Royal home yesterday after a report of domestic violence. But when no one answered the door, the situation escalated and heavily armed officers surrounded the home for most of the day. Tonight, Sam Allaby says nothing happened and he wants to set the record straight.
Sam Allaby wants to set the record straight. He was inside this View Royal home yesterday for the entire 12-hour standoff with RCMP.
It was horrendous. It really was. Like, you know, it was scary. It was nerve-wracking. It was just a whole mess of feelings and emotions.
Just before 5 p.m., he surrendered to police. But Allaby says what happened was all a big misunderstanding.
What went down in this house is not necessarily what everybody thinks went down. There wasn't a big domestic dispute. There was no hostage situation. There was no violence. There was no weapons. It was a misconstrued situation.
Police had been called to the home after a report of domestic violence. Allaby says the married couple had a verbal argument. The 30-year-old woman had left the home in the middle of the night, but he says she returned just before 5:30 yesterday morning. RCMP arrived to investigate. No one answered the door, and they became concerned for the safety of the people inside. A 30-year-old man, his wife, their 4-year-old daughter, and Allaby.
Next thing you know, we have an entire SWAT team out here. We have guns pointing at the windows. We had spike strips laid out in the driveway. We got like this whole charade going on. And it's like, you know, we had no idea what was going on.
West Shore RCMP say they wouldn't have pulled out the big guns without a good reason.
West Shore RCMP had information that there could be weapons, explosives, and a history of mental illness with the occupants inside the residence. Given that information, we obtained a warrant, but chose not to execute the warrant and forcefully enter the home. Instead, we used negotiations to bring everybody safely out of the home, and that tactic was specifically chosen because our interest in public safety, and especially the interest of the safety of the child inside the residence.
For 12 hours, the South Island Emergency Response Team, West Shore RCMP, and a negotiating team worked to communicate with the 3 adults inside the home. Allaby says they were communicating, but wanted to come out of the home on their terms.
We wanted to communicate with a lawyer before we left the house, and we knew what was happening and what the procedure was. And we were told that we could not contact a lawyer until we got down to the station.
In the end, the standoff ended peacefully. The husband was arrested, charged with domestic assault. The victim of the alleged assault, his wife, also left the home. The child remains in the care of the Ministry of Children and Families. As for Allaby, he has a souvenir of the event.
This here is the spike that came off of the spike strip that was laid down the driveway, which happened to get stuck in my foot when I was walking out the door. Like, it hurts.
Allaby's wounds will heal, but he says his emotions are hurt.
It's embarrassing. It's absolutely embarrassing, especially when you know that you weren't even involved. I'm here on vacation.
And Astrid was at the scene most of the day yesterday. She joins us now with more. Astrid, did police enter the home after the standoff?
Well, yes, they did, Eric, and they found a prohibited weapon, they say, inside the home. Constable Shannon won't say exactly what that weapon is, but she does say it was not a firearm.
Astrid Brownschmidt reporting. Thank you, Astrid.
You're welcome.